everybody. Oh man, I am so pumped to be in here with you, all of my It's Lit TV family. How you guys doing? You know what it is. It's Jakeem Daniels coming at you all the way from It's Lit TV, where we talk about leadership, influence, and total transformation, guys. And today, oh my God, I hope you're ready for this. Today we have a game changer. Somebody put it in the chat and say game changer. I hope you're ready today, because I'm super pumped and absolutely honored, guys, to be in the room with this guy. Let me tell you, man, my life actually changed a long time ago. I was fighting for the United States of America in kickboxing, guys. And I remember, man, I used to beg my mom and ask my mom for this drink, and I didn't even know, I'd ever be able to come into contact with this huge conglomerate, man. And little did I find out, as I was fighting for the USA team, and I actually won, guys, I'm a two-time world kickboxing champion for the United States of America. And this whole time I have this drink following me, man, right? And it's phenomenal. And I end up, coming back, off of the road from traveling and fighting. And I find myself wanting, to do more, to be more, to be more successful in different areas. And so I started pursuing different things, and I ran into some people who were a part of this amazing team. And now, guys, we have the founder who is here, who changed my life forever. Not only is he going to talk about that, he's going to talk about so much more. I mean, we're going to go deep. Somebody say deep, baby. It's going to be pumped. Let me let you know who he is, man, because I'm like sweating on the back of my neck right now. This is phenomenal, guys. So check this out. He hails all the way from West Michigan. Now he's going to share with you some information how he got arrested for skateboarding and doing some different things. We're going to dive deep into that. It's awesome. But guys, we're talking about the founder and creator of XS energy drinks, the #1 organically sold energy drink on the planet, guys. We're talking about next level. The founder is in the building here with It's Lit TV. We're the founder as well of XS Center of Optimal Fun in Laguna Beach, guys. Oh man, he's done so much. We're talking about the founder of KICKASS Aspirational, man. I'm so pumped because the nuggets, the things that comes out of him, the mindset and just the heart that he has is absolutely phenomenal, guys. He's a surfer by location. Check this out. And an entrepreneur by heart. That's right. So if you've ever seen somebody going crazy on the waves, I promise you it's probably been my brother from another mother, man. He's an amazing husband. I'm so pumped to be in here with him today. And my life, starting right now and started actually 10, 12 years ago, has been changed forever. Come on, I want you to get up out your seats. I want you to send this to everybody right now, and we're getting ready to bring up with some massive fire. Come on, all of my It's Lit TV community, bring up my good friend, get ready, David Vanderveen. Let's go!
How we doing, man?
How are you, brother? What's going on?
On fire and fuego.
Fuego.
Dude, and fuego. Making it happen.
Absolutely, man. How you doing?
That was very kind. I was arrested in high school for skateboarding in a swimming pool. That's right. In West Michigan, where I largely grew up.
Wow.
Haven't lived there in about 30 years. I lived on the West Coast for the last 30 years, but it was a good place to start.
Wow. So arrested in the now, was there any water in there? Come on.
No. We were, it's a funny story. We were I was in high school. We were trying to skateboard ramps and pools whenever we could find. And if you ever saw Dogtown Z-Boys, you know, the whole point is you find the empty pools and you skate them and you have a blast. And we found a public one that we weren't supposed to be in. And other kids have been skating it too, so it was a little bit beat up. And we all had to make sure we fixed that pool up before summer, which was a good learning experience for me. But I like to joke about the fact that, you know, a lot of people have great careers, right? Maybe they were a professional athlete like you, or maybe they were, you know, they went to a great college, or maybe they you know, jumped into had a great career after all of those things. You know, I didn't have all that. I got arrested. I got kicked out of a good college. You know, I was a philosophy major, so nobody was hiring a lot of philosophers when I graduated. And the whole point was I had to pick myself, and because nobody else was going to pick me. And so my life has been a little bit disruptive by design. I like to shake things up. But most importantly, I think, you know, we have this great opportunity to build a life that's meaningful. You know, if you're waiting for the universe to put meaning into your life, you're probably going to be waiting a long time. But you know, I think what we have the unique ability to do as humans, as a very special animal on this planet, is to actually deliberately put meaning back into the universe. Not wait for something to happen, but to do it ourselves, to add value to other people without looking for value in return. So
wow,
that's
where I come
from. That's what I'm about.
Wow, come on, guys, clap it up. See, that's what It's Lit is all about. It's Lit TV is a platform, Dave. It's a platform for people of all walks of life, not only just to watch people do stuff, but actually get in the game. Dave, there's so many people, man. There's so many people who are watching things happen. They're watching the high profiles, the upper echelons, the 6, the 7, the 8 figures, the influencers. They're watching these people and they're like, well, I want to do it one day. Hey, how do I do that? How do I get around the people who do that? It's Lit as a platform we created to make sure that we can bring those people from where they are to teach people that, listen, I'm just like you. We are all flesh and bones and blood. And all you have to do is believe in yourself, uplift and bring out the true potential inside of you, and watch what's happened. I mean, your purpose will absolutely elevate and you'll be able to live out in your passion. And so we're super pumped.
It's super smart. There's a quote that was in Forbes, has these daily quotes they put out. They had one today from a person named Didier Elzinga, who's the CEO of Culture Amp. And what Didier says is work has become how we, for better or worse, think about our journey in life. And so it better be meaningful. I reposted that on LinkedIn today, and I said, you know, our work ought to be where our passions, our abilities, and our income meet, right? Where those three things come together. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. And when those things kind of come together there, it gives life meaning. So for me, that it's actually something Jim Collins coined. He calls it the hedgehog concept, but it's where the things you're great at, the things that you're passionate about, and things where you can actually, where people will give you value back, where you'll earn income, where those three things come together. That point is where you should put all your effort. The challenge is it's hard to find that. And it's simple, but it's not easy. And I think that, you know, what you're doing is really admirable, helping people figure out how to create value as well as earn income, how to put meaning into their lives, and how to live a life of significance. That's, in my opinion, that's why we're here.
Absolutely. That's, you know, we all trying to figure out what our purpose is. There's so many people out there, Dave, they're trying to figure out, like, what is their purpose? You know, how do I figure that out? And usually I've seen so many people just go straight to their passion with no direction of purpose or potential. And talk to us about that, Dave. Like, what is, if you could define it for us, what is your purpose, you know?
Well, I like to say I'm a husband by marriage, a father by birth, a surfer by vocation, an entrepreneur at heart. And I think that kind of defines me in a way, right? Where there's things I'm passionate about that I love, like surfing, but no one's ever going to pay me any money for it. And I'm not sure that I have a particular competitive advantage at it. I don't know that, you know, I have no ability to be best in the world at it. And I think there's other places where, you know, a business like we've shared around excess, by the way, thanks for having me on. Here's a little going old school here on you.
Oh, man, come on.
Yeah,
old school.
The old label, here's the new label.
Fired up.
Delicious. But you know, I think the point is that we want to find things that we do, where we focus our life, we put all of our effort, that create value not only for ourselves but for other people, where we deliberately and intentionally add value to somebody else. If you think about it for a second, we're the only animals that can do that. You know, in nature, there are some symbiotic relationships where animals may add value to the other kind of unintentionally. But we're the only animals on this planet that can deliberately add value to another animal because we choose to, because we want to. And it ties into the whole thing you just said. You said, you know, people are waiting for one day. Hey, there's only one day. It's right now. This is the only day we have. This is literally the only day we have. It's right now. So, you know, a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with a little step. Start today. Start adding value to people. Start trying to help. You know, Mr. Rogers said whenever something terrible happened, his mom always said to him, look for the helpers. And I think our chance, our opportunity in all the chaos around us right now is to be a helper, is to be adding value, is to be trying to help, is to trying to build common ground, and trying to bring people together. I've had so many dinner conversations. We live in Laguna Beach. It's a beautiful little beach town here. It's a jewel on the coast of Southern California. And, you know, I've had so many dinner conversations over the years. We have friends on both sides of the political aisle. And, you know, where they're talking about, you know, this candidate or this presidential candidate or that presidential candidate or the former president, the current president. And what I've been saying is it's kind of an uninteresting question to me. I really don't care about the people. What I care about are the ideas. And more importantly, what I'm very interested in right now is how do we build a country again?
Right.
This country's getting ripped apart. And it's because people are so focused on how they're different that they can't see how they're the same. And I think when we start focusing on where we have common ground, where we can work together, where we can live together, where we can build community together, which is all about adding value to each other,
right,
that's where we can really build something again. And I think that's what we need to focus on. You know, in the history of America, we like to talk about some of the early founding ideas, the ideas of John Locke, where he talks about this radical individualism. And it's an interesting idea. It was certainly involved in the founding of our country, but I also think it's a bit of a fiction. I don't think people are islands. I don't think that, you know, our success happens alone. I think, you know, one of the great things about the business we come from with KICKASS is that, you know, we have this great ability to see that the reason we're successful is because of a team. It's because of a partnership. Yes, it's because of our individual effort, but only in the context of that group. And I think when we view our liberty that way, our liberty as a part of the connections of the society that we're in, it helps us focus on how we can live and work together and enhance that community, enhance that society, enhance that city, that state, that nation, rather than just trying to enhance our own personal piece of, you know, patch of lawn or property that we happen to live on. And I think that's the difference between social democracy and, you know, some of these more radical individualistic concepts that tend to rip us apart right now.
Right, absolutely. There's so much of that going on, man, and it's a lot to wrap your head around. You know, with so many people's, you know, some people's heads are in the sand or in the clouds, or, you know, and everybody's trying to find an answer. And a lot of times the answer is within ourselves. If we just, it's right here, right? If we just dig inside of us, you know, so many people are looking for someone to give them what they already have. And that's just, you know, it's, you picked on something so much. And I want to ask you a question about that, because I remember us chopping it up, you know, a couple of days ago, and that was phenomenal. You asked me a question too. It was hilarious, Dave. You were like, hey, did you record that? And I was like, no, oh my God.
I didn't know if we were recording or not, but you know, because we were getting into we had a great conversation, and we covered a lot of ground, and you know, sometimes with these kind of interviews, I'm not sure if it's live or not. If you know, in that one we were prepping, we were just connecting a little bit, but it was a great conversation, and I think we were talking about some of the different ways, some of the things that were really transformative in my career with KICKASS, and you know, it was a fantastic conversation about 3 specific stories where I think we tried to really, I mean, our role at Amway, you know, and by the way, I love the Amway business. You know, I'm not there anymore. We sold KICKASS to Amway. I ran that business for 3 years. We tripled the business over the period that I was there, and together as a team. I say we, you know, it wasn't me, but we really kind of, you know, had a lot more support and a lot more encouragement, and it was exciting to be a part of that growth and to see how the business could change and transform with a new generation coming in. But you know, I think what we were talking about, where there's values that the company really supports, particularly, you know, freedom, family, hope, and reward. And I think the question becomes, okay, those values will stay the same, but different generations will apply those values differently. And what sometimes where the struggle is between generations, where the gap is between generations, is understanding, particularly for the older generation that's been in control, seeing how a younger generation will apply those, and letting that new generation run, letting them go, letting them kind of take the culture forward, letting them help humanity progress. Because if we stay where our grandparents were, we'd never move forward. It doesn't mean that the values changed, but the application, the expression of those values, hopefully will change quite a bit and bring us forward. You know, we believe that our morality changes over time. You know, for most of the history of the world, slavery was cool. Everybody did it. Even, you know, Jesus even talks about it in the Bible without condemning it. But society moved forward. We don't think that anymore. We've moved past that. And now I think, you know, almost universally, anyone who's part of a functional community thinks it's absolutely abhorrent. And we need new generations to keep bringing us forward, to keep showing us that things don't have to be the way they were, that they can get better, and that we can treat people better, that we can love more people, that we can include more people in the communities we're a part of, and that we can, you know, hopefully we can correct some of the past.
Absolutely, man. It's amazing, man. I'm listening to your heart as you talk. I'm listening to your spirit as you talk. And there's a question that's coming up in my brain that I want to ask you is, you know, how do we create those healthy organizations, right? Within itself, you know, you got the you know, the more seasoned or more wise, or some would say the older generation, and then you have the, you know, the new generation, the new millennials and the creatives, etc. And we're all trying to fit in this thing together and move forward with whatever we have, whether it's a business or it's a family. You know, how do you conceptualize that idea of two different generations coming together and moving forward in a massive way where we actually move the ball? Because there's so much of, you know, this is how we do it here, you know, and then there's like, but you can do it over here is great too, you know. So what are your thoughts about that, Dave?
I mean, I think one, you know, it all comes out of functional behavior. So if you know, I came from a fairly functional family. I'm very blessed by that. I'm very grateful for that. I don't take it lightly. Maybe you don't see it when you're a kid, but later when you meet people who didn't have that, you realize, wow, that was a huge, like, that was something I took as a given that actually was like an amazing foundation to start from. Yeah. And one of the things, you know, my wife and I come from these Dutch American families. We're fairly recent immigrants in the last generation or two. One of the things that our kind of culture believes is that, you know, you should be fairly candid, you should be fairly direct, you should talk about the things that everyone's trying to, you know, shy away from because maybe it's not popular. And so like at our Sunday dinners, we always talked about religion and politics. And, you know, in a lot of parts of America, nobody wants to do that because, oh, what if somebody gets angry? What if somebody has a different point of view? And I think the healthy part, the functional part of talking about those things is recognizing your own bias. Because you'll only see your own bias if you actually look for it. You'll never see it if you don't, right?
Wait a minute. What? You'll say that one more time. You will only what now?
You're only going to see your own bias if you look for it. If you say, what are my biases? What are the filters that I'm viewing the world through? Because if you don't look for that, you're only just going to keep looking through those sunglasses and never realize there's a filter right in front of you. And I think it's really hard for us as individuals to understand somebody else if we don't understand our own biases. I did a podcast recently with Dr. Kelly James Clark, professor. He was at Calvin College when I was there in philosophy, but he studies how people interact in particular. And one of the big elements of that, and Harvard did a big study on it, is helping people see their own biases. Because if we can't see those, we can't ever bridge with somebody else that's different than us.
Right. Dude, that's money. We got to give some fire. Guys, did you hear that? Is that not fire? Come on, baby, let's go. Oh, man. You have to recognize your own bias. You got to go look for it. You got to search for it, man, so that you can fix whatever you don't even know exists, man. I mean, that is next level, man. And there's, wow.
Well, and so I think part of the challenge, right, is if you created a world around you that's kind of closed off from everything else, if you created a world around you that just kind of gives you affirmation for everything that you say and doesn't give you maybe constructive criticism or ways to shape and change, if you don't have that healthy functional kind of engagement, you know, almost combat, you know, like a healthy form of combat. The way you train is you stress your muscles, right? The way you get better ideas is you have healthy argument, healthy debate. if you don't have the ability to do that, if all you ever do is you go, let's say you just go talk on stage and everyone tells you and high fives and says that was great, it's probably not that helpful. It's probably not that productive in terms of helping you progress, helping the community progress. There needs to be a little healthy engagement, a little healthy debate. And I give the Amway families, the Van Andel and DeVos families, a lot of credit for that, particularly Barb Van Andel Gaby and Dave Van Andel. And you look at like a John Parker, people at the company who are either executives or on the board of directors, who recognize that for the Amway business to progress in general, which is where Excess was being distributed, where we were doing a lot of our work building a brand, a lifestyle brand, a culture. It's all based on values. For that to happen, we needed to push boundaries a little bit. We needed to bring in a new generation, give them a place where that next generation felt like this is our business, not our parents' or grandparents' business. And when we did that, it just unleashed. I mean, I think that's how we met, right? Right. We met at Excess parties, which at the beginning was a little, people were like, whoa, Excess party. No, this is business. This is work. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're all going to have to work hard. But if we make that hard work fun, it doesn't seem like it's so hard, right?
Exactly.
Then what else do you want to do? How do you find that passion, that thing you're good at, and that place where you can make money? How do we make that hard work fun work so that we put more effort in? We keep working so hard we forget we're even doing it. Yes, we break a sweat. Yes, we have outcomes that are productive, but at the end of the day, it's a great time.
Dude, wait a minute. That is next level, because we're going to dive deep into this like right now. Emmeline, Floor, the collaborative, what's going on? She says,
Emmeline.
She says, David is a Viking, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome. Well, listen, man.
Emmeline's a filmmaker, and she knows Vikings. She's a very brave and strong lady, and actually, she's good friends with my friend Knut, the Viking warlord, who does our workouts on fitness. We used to do Fitness Fridays with Excess.
Right, that's right.
Through life now on Instagram. Yeah, Emmeline's.
Wow. Well, what's up? We want to. If he has a question, go ahead and call in. You guys see the number down at the bottom. If anybody wants to call in, we're only going to take 3 callers today. So if you want to call in and ask Dave a question, hit us up at 404-738-8556, and you will be live around the world with us on today. It's going to be phenomenal, guys. Well, so Dave, let's dive in deep, man. So tell us, because people want to know, and I remember, this is no exaggeration, guys. I still have the pictures of me and Dave, and I was probably about another 30 pounds heavier, but I was moving, baby. And me and Dave were on the floor, and we were taking it down, man. I mean, we were shredding the floor. It was awesome, and we had an opportunity to, really, really just connect. So Dave, before we get into this, I think people need to see, okay? They really need to see what an XS party would look like. Is that okay?
Dude, let's do it.
I think they need to see it, because if they can view it before you talk about it, and boom! If they can view it before you talk about it, like if they can see the depths, because a picture tells 1,000 words, but a video tells 10,000. Right. And I just really, really believe, before we dive in deep and talk about how did you break the barrier?
How did we?
How did we? That's right. How did we break the barrier of the idea of business in the 20th and the 21st century? So let's play this video. Who's excited? You ready to hear the video? Let's go.
Ooh.
Boom. Oh man, come on.
Love it, Jakeem. That was awesome. That was a party in Malaysia we did.
Yeah.
It was all over the world, and that was a fun one. That was a few years ago in Malaysia when we were launching over there. Very fun.
That was absolutely epic. You know, how I want my life to be. You know, just crazy, man. And so, Dave, now that the people have seen this, there's somebody who said, wow, you know, now that they've seen this, right? Take us through the steps, okay? How we bridge the gap between business and total, absolute 100% epicness. Like, how did we break that barrier? How did we jump into that thing? Like, give us the backstory.
You know, it's funny. I'm looking for this. Anyways, I'll find it. But there's a really great quote by Michener where he talks about the fact that, you know, masters of the art of living don't separate their work and their play, their leisure and their you know, their religion. It's all one life because it should be one set of values, right? And so I really took that to heart. And I, you know, Laguna Beach, where I've lived for most of my life, the last 30 years, is a place where, West Coast, but, you know, Laguna Beach for the last 20, 30 coast. We lived up in Napa for 8 and Seattle for 2 and then down here. But, you know, the thing that he's getting to is what you see in great lifestyle brands where, you know, I owned a Red Bull distributorship as part of Large.com in the late 90s. And I really saw how Red Bull was bringing together their values and their business. They made it fun. People didn't want to be in a beverage company. They wanted to be a part of that culture. They wanted to get outside. They wanted to have some parties. They wanted to make it a productive thing that they could earn income from so they could pay their bills and do the things they needed to do. But life didn't have to suck or work didn't have to suck in order to have that great life. And so when we were building KICKASS, you know, I come from here, Laguna, you've got, you know, Volcom that came from here. Quicksilver really built itself here. Billabong really built itself here. They started in Australia, but they got big right here. You know, they ended up being bought by the companies here. You look at, you know, Rourke's a new one that's just exploding right now, but really it's about people who come from a place, you know, this little town of less than 24,000 people, where it was originally an artist colony and people who like to be outside, either, you know, the plein air painters who are painting Impressionism, or whether it's athletes, the kid just skateboarding by right now. You know, I'm in the water. People are like, how often do you surf? I'm like, every day. It's literally across the street. I'm there in, you know, minutes. And it's like you just get your gills wet every day. You get in the water because, like, a buddy of mine's visiting, Mark Hansen. He's been the editor for Jackass through their whole career. He's been staying with us, and, you know, I get him up in the morning. We go for a swim. We went free diving yesterday. Took him through Volkswagen Rock, this underwater cavern that is just packed with fish. And, you know, if the first thing at 7:30 in the morning, you're in the ocean and it's refreshing you, and you're free diving, and you're having that mammalian reflex where your whole body kind of comes together to survive underwater. When you come out of the water, you're getting all of these endorphins that are released. You feel alive. You feel like everything's good again in the world. And it's just one of the most refreshing, encouraging, and exciting ways to live. And then you have to go and do some work. But when you can bring those things together, the fun of building a life, the fun of doing it in a community, the fun of adding value to other people, and doing it in ways that surprise you, I think that's where we really have big opportunities. My dad used to say to me, he said, you know, you have to do new things every day. You have to try different things. You have to drive home from work a different way. You have to maybe try shaving your face a different way every day, because otherwise, if you keep doing the same thing every day, the same way every day, you'll etch these channels in your brain, and you lose your ability to really see the world differently, be creative, or have fresh opportunities. And so for us at KICKASS, what we were constantly trying to do when we were having events or doing outdoor activities was to help people step outside their comfort zone a little bit, maybe do things they didn't think they could do, surprise themselves with who they could become, maybe scare them a little bit every day, but get to a point where you're like, wow, I could be a much bigger human than the person I am. You know, there's Joseph Campbell's really famous for helping everyone understand the power of myths. And what he talked a lot about was this meta narrative, this great story that all humans seem to have encoded on their DNA. It doesn't matter if you're up in Scandinavia, where a lot of our family comes from, and maybe we believed in Thor and Odin, or maybe you come from the Middle East and you believe in an Abrahamic tradition where it's all about God the Father and God the Son. The stories are almost identical. This is kind of an interesting one. This is from social anthropology. Every people's group on Earth, regardless of where they come from, regardless if they've ever even seen the ocean, every people group on Earth has a flood narrative. Whether it's Gilgamesh, Noah, Pickett, everybody has these stories, these narratives baked into them for some reason. And I think a really interesting question is, why are these baked into us? Why do we all seem to have this encoded in our DNA? And what is this meta narrative? Particularly the hero's journey, where it's a story about, you see it in every Disney movie, you see it in the Bible, you see it throughout Western literature, where there's this person who's living in their village, life is fine, and then they get wildly knocked off course by some cataclysmic event that forces them to become a much bigger, better person than they ever thought they were capable of. It's almost like they get superpowers, right? That's the hero's journey. And it doesn't come from comfort. It doesn't come from doing the same thing every day the way that somebody told you to do it. The only way that you'll find your best life, the biggest life, the life that where you can really express yourself and truly add the most value you can to the world, is by challenging those little things every day, by pushing, by maybe being a little disruptive, but doing it by design to produce progress in the culture that you're in.
Yo, Dave, stop it, bro. You are on fire. Listen, man, you just gave me the headline to the segment that we're going to do when we cut this up. Check this out. And hey, I'll send you 50%, bro. Bro, disruptive by design.
Disruptive by design. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Dave, we have to do it, brother. However we do it, create some shirts, create just a quick brand to throw out there, disruptive by design, and make it a positive thing.
It is a positive thing. It is a positive thing. I mean, I think the idea that, we have to agree to have a healthy relationship is ridiculous. What agreement tends to create is sabotage, backstabbing, and high dysfunction in communities. Wow. If you don't put stuff out on the table and deal with it, it becomes a massive problem. You have to have that candor, and you have to do it with respect, right? The reason we all should be doing it is because we love these other people. We love the community we're in. We want to support it, enhance it, and make it better, not because we're trying to tear it down or wreck it.
Wow. So we need it, right? We need creative. We need creative juices to flow to bring out the best of us. So agreement doesn't always bring that, but having a disagreement for chaos that might actually turn into a positive, because both parties are different. We all have different ideas, but when we bring it together for the future or for the betterment of other people, it all comes together anyway, right?
Absolutely. I think people confuse happiness with joy. So I think people think they have to have this shallow happiness all the time rather than deep joy and fulfilled joy. I think people confuse the idea with true peace with like a false peace. I mean, look at the Soviet Union had amazing peace, but they also had totalitarianism. Like, they had the clamps on, so there was no crime. You could walk through Red Square, in the middle of the night, and nobody would mug you. Not like New York in the 50s or 60s or 70s. But it wasn't a peace. It was a false peace, because there was no ability to have this public debate, this public discussion. I'm not saying we get it all right in the United States either, but the fact is, at least we have the ability to have public conversations. We have the ability to have public debate. Even that's getting challenged now. There's been, on both sides, but I think the ability for us to have open and fresh conversations where, out of respect for each other, conversations that are civil, conversations that follow, basic rules of debate and discussion. I think that's really fundamental to having healthy societies. If you think about, there's a great book called Democracy in America. It's from Alexander de Tocqueville. He was a French aristocrat who came through the United States in the 1800s, saying, why does American democracy flourish where it's struggled so much in places like France? They had over a dozen revolutions after their first one, because they tried to do things differently. They wanted direct democracy, majority rule, which creates a tyranny of the majority. They're hanging people, cutting people's heads off. He said, "Why is America so different?" And what de Tocqueville's famous for is talking about the social fabric we had here, that we had common values, common understanding, that we were a society that valued, not only economic freedom, but social freedom and political freedom and religious freedom. And that those things together created a fabric in society where we had shared values, we had common ground, and we could discuss and debate and disagree and come to a much better understanding and agreement than if we didn't have those things, if we were living under a totalitarian regime or a monarchy. And I think that's what makes us special and great. That's why we're so successful as entrepreneurs in this country. Entrepreneurship comes out of disruption, the fresh new opportunities that exist in chaos. And I think when it's when we're doing that best.
Man, I am absolutely like floored about that. I mean, disruptive by design. That is absolutely game changer. You got to put it in the chat, guys. If this is helping you, go ahead and put it in the chat. And because we have a question by Elani, I believe, and it's a big question, so I want to make sure I get to that. But this right here is money, because there's so many people who they're afraid, Dave, to have crucial conversations. Right. They're afraid to go against the grain. And I used to be one. I used to be a guy. Absolutely no problem. Yeah, sure, no problem, and never think for myself until I started becoming emotionally healthy and healthy just around people to understand myself a little bit more in my blueprint. And now crucial conversations, Dave, is a piece of my life. Like, I believe that in conversations and true, genuine love for another person, no matter what background or creed that they come from, you can absolutely fix everything. You can fix anything. There's not one thing that I believe on this earth that can remain a problem without a crucial conversation and genuine love for another person. What are your thoughts about that?
No, absolutely. I think, so I'll give a little background. If you think about, pre-Enlightenment, so before we got into the scientific method, everything was based around religion. And so there was certainty based in this God that I followed in the book that I have from that God, and the values that come out of that book, and then how we should form society around it. The revolution of the Enlightenment was that we shifted the certainty of a God for the certainty of science. We started discovering that the scientific method would create these great leaps in comfort and in quality of life and other things that, really, it's why we can talk right now, even though we're thousands of miles apart. It's why we can live in relative comfort at any day of the year, any day of the week. It's why we can eat like pharaohs. I mean, whatever we want to eat, whatever we want to drink is literally just down the street at a store that's kept fresh and cold for us, or warmed for us if we want it. All those things are important, but I think the biggest challenge, and I think this is where it's coming back to what you were just talking about, the biggest challenge is we went from the certainty of one thing to the certainty of the other. The big challenge we have today on social media, particularly Facebook right now, is that people they're not listening to the other person to hear where the common ground is, where the opportunity is to have similarities and to get together. Most people are just posting because they're certain this is what truth is, and they want everyone to follow their truth. And all that's really going to get them is a bunch of people who already agreed with them. It doesn't actually help us all discover where we can become better and where we can add value to somebody else. And so I think to your point about, you're only one crucial conversation away from fixing something. I think we all need to realize that a conversation isn't us speaking at someone. It's us listening to the other first. And I literally always have pen and paper with me, because active listening requires me taking notes, requires me listening, not to react to what somebody's saying, but to add value to it. Absolutely. Improv is always about yes and. Somebody puts out an idea, and then the other person in the improv has to say yes and so it's not yes but, it's not reacting to it, because that shuts down the conversation.
Right.
And create, building on what the other person started with. And to your point, I think that's what a healthy conversation is. It's mostly asking questions, and it's mostly adding value to what the other person said, building on what the other person said, not focusing on where we disagree or where we think we're right and they might be wrong.
Absolutely. Just being able to say, hey, listen, my apologies. I'm sorry. I believe we're on the wrong foot. So many people want to be right, and just, fixing that thing, man. Being a capture card is something that I noticed that I love, at least just listening to you. I've been able to capture so many things, but there was something you wanted to say, Dave. Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask you, what was one of the more crucial conversations that you've had where you found that rather than, maybe sending an angry text back or an angry email back, picking up a phone or getting face to face?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Dave, like, crucial conversations is my life. I don't think there's a week that goes by that I'm not having a crucial conversation. And I'm having them all the time. And the reasons why is because I honestly see the better in
Right.
in everyone, and I see it in myself. And when there's an issue or when there's something that's not tracking, and I know for a fact that there's better inside of me or there's better inside of someone else, it's very, very easy for me to say, okay, it's time to have a very honest, open, and transparent, crucial conversation where both parties feel safe and we can have some dialogue. There's so many times where maybe someone's been mad at me, Dave, or maybe they, they weren't, understanding me. Maybe I wasn't giving them my blueprint before we had, like, a specific relationship or professional relationship. So there was a lot of misunderstandings there. And what I noticed is that without people coming to me and talking to me and having a conversation, they just get mad with me. They wouldn't talk to me anymore. They'd go somewhere else. They're like, oh, I come around and it gets quiet and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like all happy and I'm ready to talk and I'm ready to vibe. And I feel something. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm not feeling the same way, but I want to know, okay, how do we come on a common ground where this is not weird? This is not weird for the both of us. And so I'm having, crucial conversations all the time. A lot of times it has to do, and I believe this to be true. It has a lot to do with people, maybe whatever they went through in the past that maybe they've seen come up in another person, or they just don't know the blueprint of who you are and why you are. And they've never, dove a little bit deep. They never jumped in there to kind of, even this particular conversation right here, Dave, to be quite honest with you, I always wanted to have a conversation with you to build. But I never even, in my brain, I guess I never even thought that it'd be happening right now. I almost died and my appendix ruptured and they had to take my stomach out. And
was that from kickboxing or was that independent of kickboxing?
Independent of kickboxing. And literally, man, my mentor said, hey, dude, you were gone, and I'm here today, man, realizing that there's so much potential that I have. There's so much purpose that I have. And I can't not be in a good position or in a good fix with someone, or I can't not have a bad situation. Life is too short. You never know what's going to happen. So crucial conversations for me, Dave, is happening all the time with everyone, family members, and it's all good. It's all positive because I have the right heart for the other person. Does that make sense? So I'm not mad, and I pray they're not mad either. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think, one of my favorite little books is it's actually a published little book of a commencement speech that David Foster Wallace gave at Kenyon College. It's called "This Is Water." There's been some videos made of it. It's a little published hardcover book that's beautiful. But it talks about two young fish swimming along, and an older fish swims by and he says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" And keep swimming, and the two little fish, they look at each other and they're like, "What's water?" We're so immersed in some of our own filters, our own biases, or ideas that we don't even know that we're in them. And one of the things he talks about is that he's talking to these kids who went to, our older son went there, probably one of the best undergraduate degrees you can get in literature, just kids who think and write really well, great liberal arts college. And, he's talking to kids who are going out in the world. And he said, typically people would want to tell you, hey, you've got a liberal arts education, you're going to learn how to think, you're going to go out and do this great things. He said, I'm not here to tell you that. So what I'm here to tell you is that the most important thing we can do every day is to check ourselves, is to back up, is to be aware that, you know, when somebody, it's not to react to the world, but to deliberately take a breath and give the world a little space. You know, if somebody behind the register at a checkout is upset or angry or snaps at you, it's probably not you. There's probably something going on in their life that's causing them to behave that way. I like to say with social media in particular, you know, what somebody says about you doesn't tell you much about yourself. How you react to what they say about you or what they do to you tells you about yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think when you're interacting with, when you're having conversations, it's not about what you know or what you're going to try and put out there. It's more about listening to what the other one is saying, trying to understand what's behind what they're saying, and then trying to help both of you move together and at least build some common ground, whether you ever do anything or not. You know, when I was building a business as a distributor in the 90s, an Amway distributor, you know, the thing that I always that I had to learn was that when somebody said no to me or the opportunity, they weren't really saying no to me, they're saying no to themselves. You know, what they were really saying, you know, obviously the business has been around for 60 years. It does tens of billions of dollars a year. It's very successful. It will be next year as well. That's not the question. The real question is, does somebody believe they can do it? And most people are not going to say, oh, I'm not good enough, right? No one's going to say that. They're going to pick up whatever you're presenting so that they don't have to step up, even though they might need it. Or they're going to come up with an excuse or a reason why. And that's okay. And people don't have to do everything. They don't have to do what we're doing. They don't have to see what we see. But I think the opportunity is to listen to the body language, listen to what's behind the words that people are saying, rather than just react to the words coming out of their mouth. And really trying to understand where they're coming from. What's the backstory here? What's the concern here? Why don't they think they can do it? And so, you know, I used to get into these things where I joke a little bit with people and I'd say, hey, look, I know you're probably looking at me saying, well, I could never do what you do because you're such an impressive specimen of humanity. And we'd both want to laugh, right? And I'd say, look, just to be clear, I got kicked out of college. I got arrested for skateboarding. I got, you know, no one was picking this to be a professional athlete. No one was picking this to be the CEO of anything. That's okay. I've never needed a title to tell me I was okay. I've never needed a career to tell me I was okay. It has to happen inside your heart. And that has to happen because you've done enough deep work on this, on yourself, through reading and meditation and mentorship and coaching. You get to a point where you're like, hey, independent of the amount of money I make, the title I get, the who picks me for what team or what company, independent of all that, independent of how the rest of the world might give me validation, I need to validate myself. I need to choose myself first. I need to fix this before I can add any value to anybody else. And if we do that in a way that's all about putting value back into the world, so it's a selfless act in a way. I mean, you have to build up yourself so you can be valuable to others. But when you're doing it for that selfless act, when you're doing that to add value to others, there'll be plenty of value that'll come back. You know, people used to ask us, are you bigger than Red Bull yet? You know, and I was like, I understand why you might ask that. Okay, that's fine, but it's really not an interesting question to me. We're a very profitable business. We're very healthy. We're growing at a great rate. We're growing the way we should be right now.
Absolutely.
This is a different business, a different brand, and a different distribution platform. We're doing what we need to do, not what the other guys need to do. They're doing their thing. They're doing it really well. Congratulations. Good job. We need more of you. You know, there's plenty of room in the world. We just need to introduce more people to what we're doing. In fact, I was accepting this award for Amway at the Success University because we were being recognized. All of us were being recognized for being the #1 direct selling company in the world. And, you know, here you are in a room of your peers. So it's other direct selling companies. You're getting an award for being #1. And I'm sitting here going, what is everybody else thinking? You know, the last thing you want to do is celebrate yourself in that moment. What you really want to do is help the industry step up. And what I said it reminded me of when I worked in the Napa Valley. I ran a beverage alcohol laboratory that did a lot of wine analysis. So we worked with a lot of big names. And, you know, Robert Mondavi at the time was alive and probably one of the really helped create the Napa Valley and turn it into what it is today. Right. And the way he did it, because he came from his family owned another winery called Charles Krug or CK Charles Krug. Anyways, his brother continues, you know, operated that winery. He left and started Robert Mondavi, a winery. And he said, you know, when he would go out and talk about the valley, he didn't talk about his winery. He talked about the terroir, you know, how the environment, the the weather and the soil come together to create this place where you can grow these really unique and special grapes. And that when you get the right varietals and the right terroir, and then you harvest at the right time, and you crush it correctly and properly, and you ferment it and put on oak, it creates one of the most amazing experiences in the Napa Valley that you can put in your mouth and ingest and drink. It'll make you happy and full of life. That is why you buy a bottle of Napa Valley wine. And of course, you could experience that with a bottle of Robert Mondavi wine, but you could also buy it with anyone else's wine from the Valley. And what he did is he created a tide that lifted all boats. And so I was telling that story, and I said, look, I'm happy that Amway is #1, but I hope we don't stay here forever. I hope some of you pass us. I hope we all keep growing and improving, because at the end of the day, it's not we're not competing with Herbalife or Mage or these other companies. That's not really where the competition is. That's not the healthy competition. The healthy competition, we are in direct selling, helping people, make something out of their lives, do more than they ever thought they could. That's what's ultimately compelling. And there's plenty of work to do out there. We need to bring a lot more people into this community, this general community. Maybe someone will come in through us. Maybe someone come in through you. Our job is to really focus on how do we help more people create their best life. That's what we're here for. That's what we need to be focused on. Thank you for this little trinket, but that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we think there's a lot of room for all of us to do a lot more of this. And so I've always viewed, my work with Amway and XS as a part of that whole endeavor. It's not just about, was never just about building XS any more than it was about building Amway. It was about building that, helping people really find that life where they could be like, man, this rocks. This is deeply meaningful. And it's not just because I'm finding my own self-actualization. It's because I'm helping so many other people find themselves along the way.
Dave, that's amazing, man. And guys, put it in the chat, what you're getting out of this, because Dave, for like the last 2-3 weeks, I've been teaching this same thing over and over and over. And I used to get this thing all the time, Dave. It's like, there's the excess guy. There's the excess man. There he is. There he is. And I'm like, dude, I do a whole bunch of stuff. But if that's what you want to say, great. That's fine. But I started noticing something. I started doing a little bit of self-evaluation and doing a little bit kind of watching others. And here's what I noticed, Davis, is so many people are falling in love and making out with the vehicle. They're like, anybody on the chat, like, have you ever like been driving and then you seen like a couple like kissing their car, like just like making out with the vehicle? Yeah. And so many people are like missing the point of what we do. And I love what you said, because one of my mottos is and I kind of took this from a lot of other leaders, and I just kind of made it my mantra, is how many lives are better off because I lived. I want more lives to be better off. I want to help more people. This is simply a vehicle to get us to that destination. And the good thing about this vehicle is that it doesn't just have wheels, David. It has, it's a plane. It's a bike. It's skates. It's surfing. It's so many different things that can take you so many different places. But so many people get hung up on the vehicle instead of the person, Dave, that's driving it. You got to fall in love with the people that's driving the vehicle, because they're the ones who are going to take this vehicle to other heights and deeper depths. So, how do we go to another level only loving one structured vehicle system? It only can get us one place. You can't go anywhere else. There's no creativity. Once the vehicle is built, that's it. And over time, the vehicle breaks down. The vehicle depreciates. It's the people behind the vehicle who's driving that's going to take the vehicle to the next level. So fall in love with the people that's driving and not the vehicle, man. That's just been something I've been teaching to so many people. And I hope people get it, man, because what you're saying is right. This was just something for us to get in the door, to do what we were really called to do, which is transform as many people's lives as possible.
To that point, one of the things that I used to travel about 10 months a year around the world, working with, with a lot of people who are working with XS and working with Amway around the world, and probably traveling more than I should have been. But I realized that, yes, Amway is based in Ada, and yes, XS is based in Laguna Beach, and we had our Center for Optimal Fun here, still do. It's beautiful. It's on the sand. It's a great way to experience the origins of XS, and to really get into it. But I think the thing that struck me was that, Amway isn't a building in Ada. Amway isn't XS. It's not a product. It's not Neutralite. It's a people. In the Thor movies, right, when Asgard gets blown up,
yeah,
right? Odin says to Thor, he says, Asgard is never a place; it's a people, it's a community. And I think that's the same here. And what I would say, because I was traveling a ton, I was out a ton, and there's a lot of executives who want to be in Ada all the time. Some of them really need to be. That's where their work is. But I kept saying, look, my work is out there. Our revenue happens out there. Every penny of our revenue happens out there. And the way that we build that is by building up the people so that the growth can happen, building up the people, developing the people, supporting the people and the things that they need so that they can better themselves, so that we can do more together. That will never happen. What you see in direct selling a lot is you'll see fast growth in some companies as they take off. Right. And it's very common for a company to take off and then crash. And the reason is because if the growth outpaces the leader's ability to develop themselves, it is not sustainable. Most companies can't grow more than, 20, 30% a year and sustain it.
Wait a minute. You got to say that again. That was money. Wait a minute. Say that one more time. The companies can't outgrow. Say that one more time.
Sure. So, a lot of times people want to look at that revenue growth and they want to see it keep going up and to the right forever. If you're not building the people, because the people are where that revenue comes from. In Amway, our ABOs, our IBOs own every penny of the revenue. Amway doesn't sell anything. They sell it wholesale to the distributors, but those distributors actually consume it or resell it, at retail. So I would always say, look, every penny of revenue is owned by our distributors. The business is out there. It's not here. And so, what you see, and there's some really good books that have done studies on this in direct selling, but you'll see companies go up and crash, and the reason they'll come down is because they haven't been investing in the people. If you don't support the leadership and the growth of the leadership to follow that revenue, it'll come back down. And that's why I think one of the things that Amway has that's so unique and special are distributor leaders who invest heavily into personal development for themselves and their teams. There's mentorship and coaching that's really almost unparalleled in the industry, and that's part of the power behind the scale and the size of what continues to keep Amway in the #1 position.
That's fire, man. That is absolute fire. Listen, Dave, we're gonna do a quick, because this is getting deep, and we're coming right down to time, guys. If you want to see, and here's the deal, Dave. I personally want to stay on here with you for the next 3 hours, brother. Okay, like I feel like I can just soak it up. I'm even to the point where, honestly, man, if you let me know what I need to do, whatever stipulations or whatever it is I need to do, but I want to come to Laguna Beach and I want to spend a week with you. If whatever it is that I need to do to make sure that I can be there, because the information that you have is revolutionary.
I just have a question, Jakeem. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you like to party?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me, man? Hey, listen, man. You go in the comments below and you ask anybody when they're coming to the functions. You got 14,000, 15,000 people. Ask them who they have in the front and say, "Hey, here you go. Take the mic, lead the crowd."
It's you. Well, I think we did that with you back at the XS days, right? I know.
Yeah.
See, the problem is they had to have me on stage a lot, and that's like I'm this old boring guy. We needed some excitement. We needed some. So where I was looking for where's the action here in the room, and it was all about. It was never about. I always just say, look, yeah, I'll be on stage for a minute just to pump the brand up, get everyone excited. But at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about getting our IBOs up and in front and center, because we're here for you. We're here to support you.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, you changed the game, man, because when you came that one time,
yeah,
with the glitter jacket, bro. Let me tell you, man.
Was that in Fayetteville?
Huh?
Where was that? Was that Fayetteville?
No. That wasn't Fayetteville.
No.
That was it was either North Carolina, either Greensboro or Charlotte.
Okay, Charlotte. Yeah.
And when you came, man, and you brought the glitter jacket, I know it's a bunch of people in here who remembers that. Let me tell you, it was so many people like, okay, I have to wear the 3-piece suit. But when you brought the glitter jacket, it opened up a whole new world. I started seeing people with the glitter shoes and hey, listen, I even had my glitter shoes. I started wearing my glitter shoes. It was next level. It changed the game. And that's what it's all about. Guys, it doesn't. I mean, there's so many different standards that create ways of living, but you can create your own way of living. You can create your own idea, and it can start to be fact. There's so many people that I'm talking to. They're like, where did that word come from? Or you just created a word. Well, let me ask you a question. What about all the words that you know? Where did they come from? And who created that? And why do you believe it to be true? You can create your own world, and it can be fact to other people. And that's something that I am developing every single day, man, because as long as it doesn't violate anybody's laws or moral laws or the way they feel or think about themselves, and it adds value to other people, you can create something and create it, and it actually becomes fact. Because what is fact? Fact is just truth into proven untruth. So does that make sense? So I'm just like, oh snap, man. Yes, I love to party. And you let me know what I'm supposed to do, Dave, because I'm telling you, I will get on a plane and I am there, because the knowledge and the information and the lifestyle that you have created, not only for yourself, but for so many other people, is something that I am really, really serious about. It's just helping more and more people create. That's what it's all about. It's not about me. It's about how do we get more and more people to create. And if someone is scared at this moment, like if you're on this chat right now and you're scared and you don't know what to do, and you're trying to figure, you have all this potential in you, but you're really not going out there and tracking and doing the deal, I'm highly and strongly encouraging you to step out, jump, take the leap of faith. When you're up 30,000, 50,000 feet in the air and they let the hanger down and they're like, listen, jump as soon as you see the green. Don't get there and look down and
just go, man. You look straight out, you go. Just
jump. Yeah. And you will realize in a matter of seconds that, oh snap, I can fly. I can fly, man. I am flying. And so
yeah. You can fall fast. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's amazing, right? And I think to your point, to take the leap, you can't look down. You can't look into the fear. You can look into the fear, you can dwell on the fear, but when you actually want to make the leap, you have to, I'm borrowing this from Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She's a wonderful person, Liz. But she says you have to look fear in the face and you have to thank fear, because fear is trying to protect you. And you have to say, fear, thank you. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect me. I don't need you right now. I need you to go over here because I have to jump out of this airplane. And the only way that's going to work is if you actually address the thing and confront the thing that's stopping you, which, you have to have brutal honesty to get there. You believe in the end of the story. I know we're going to land safely. I have a parachute on. I have an instructor who's going to help me get there. But then you have to say, fear, thank you. No, thank you right now. I'm doing that. And boom, you got to go out. And I think when you do that, it allows you to transform your life and hopefully bring along some other people who can transform their lives.
Wow. That's money. Well, listen, Dave, we're going to go to some of the comments because we got a couple good questions that I want to make sure that we get answered today. So are you guys ready for the update? Are you ready for the #1 positive news on the planet? Let's go.
Booyah. I'm ready.
Oh, we're here. So this is going to help some people. Emmeline, right? Is it Emmeline Floor?
Yeah, Emmeline, the island girl.
Yeah. She says, what top 3 advice? What is your top 3 advice would you give, college level students about life and about their future career? Like in these days, they're questioning, their leaders and ethics and future, their nation. Like, what advice would you give college students for their life and their future moving forward?
Well, I think the first thing, I mean, this was some of my advice for my own kids was, find a community that you can be a part of. When we were looking at colleges, it wasn't about the football team and it wasn't about a sport. It was about, are these your people? Is this where you want to spend 4 years? Is this going to help you advance to become the person you think you need to be? And that's usually driven by values. That's driven by falling in love with the work that you're going to have to do when you're there. And it continues on after that. When I was in university, when I was started at Wheaton for my first 3 years before they kicked me out for my poetry. It was a tough school to get into, and they had a lot of great departments and professors. And what I discovered was that I probably wouldn't work as hard unless I had professors, unless I had mentors and coaches that were going to push me to do more and that were going to inspire me to be the person I could become. And so what I chose philosophy as a degree, and I chose political science as a degree, because those were two departments that really touched me, that really spoke to me, and had professors that would inspire me to do more than I would do on my own. So it started there. And then as I got out into work, I worked in politics for a while. I worked at the American Enterprise Institute. I worked for Fred Upton, a congressman. I ran a lot of the Western states for U.S. term limits during the mid-90s. When I was doing that, part of who I chose to work with and what I chose to do was defined by those values and defined by this idea that if I was in a community that inspired me, that really helped me leverage where my passion was, where my abilities were, and where my income was coming from, where those three things come together, it's a Venn diagram. Where those three things come together, that's where you want to put all your effort. You're never going to find that if you're not in a place where you're passionate. You're never going to find that if you're not in a place where you can really develop and apply your abilities. You're never going to find that if you can't earn money. It's just a hobby. And so that combination is critical. And so in life, I started looking for places I could live where I was going to be around those people. Get into a community and environment where you're because place matters. Make sure that the values they have and the values you want align. They may express them a little differently than you. That's okay. But are the values the same values you have? Do you know what your values are? Have you dug deep there? Have you done some work on that? In yourself. And then I think the biggest thing is you got to work hard. I always have had multiple things going on. I've always had my own side hustle. I've always had a career that I've been building. And I've always constantly been pressing on those things and looking for opportunities to make quantum leaps, to leapfrog the typical career ladder, the typical structure. There was a point where Amway was considering me as one of the CEO candidates. I had to meet with a consultant who came from a very typical career pattern. And he said to me, well, your career has kind of been all over the place. And I said, well, has it though? I mean, he was an older guy, and I don't think we totally saw eye to eye on everything. I said, from my perspective, I was a vice president making a fairly large six-figure income by the time I was in my late 20s at a Fortune 100 technology company. I helped co-found, a very large .com in the late 90s, and as well as being, one of their senior executives. I was a CTO before I was 40. I co-founded, we co-founded KICKASS when we were in our 30s. I was a CEO of a public company before we started KICKASS. I was on their board of directors. And none of that would have happened if I had just followed this consultant wanted to see this straight line somehow, as if that's how life works. And, there are no straight lines in any life that's worth living, in my opinion. Almost every time it's up and then up again and then maybe down again. But if you're pushing yourself and you're taking risks, and you'll learn how to manage risk better. I don't think you can learn to manage risk by playing it safe, but you also have a much more fulfilling life. Somebody asked my wife Sarah. She's an amazing woman. She has a publishing company. We've been married we've been married now for more than 27 years. Somebody asked her, what's it like? Because I'm a little bit notorious in terms of having a lot of fun and pushing boundaries. And somebody said to her, what's it like being married to your husband? And she said, well, it's never boring, And I think if you have a life that's worth living, that's a true adventure, it's not going to be boring. You might not take all the risks. You don't want to kill yourself. You want to push yourself. You want to expand your boundaries. You'll definitely get some scar tissue. You'll definitely skin your knee. Hopefully you won't break your neck. But you'll never learn how to manage risk if you don't start taking some risks. You don't find out where those edges are, and you'll never discover who you can be if you don't push yourself to the edge of those boundaries. And so that's always been part of my operating program, part of my model, is to push yourself. And so when you think about the three things, it's one, figure out what are you good at, what are you bad at, what are you passionate about, and where can you earn money. The only way you're going to find those things is by pushing your boundaries, pushing yourself, and testing the waters. Take some risks. Always do more than one thing. Have a side hustle. Have a career path. Start some things. Try some things. No one ever. I've never heard of anyone who at the end of their life said, "I just tried too much. I did too much." Nobody says that, right? Everyone says, "Oh, I wish I would have learned to play the violin. Wish I would have learned to dance. Wish I would have, whatever it is. Wish I would have kissed that girl." Doesn't matter. Do it. Try it. Fail. It's okay. No one's watching and paying attention to you. That's all in your head. You've got to try some things. You've got to be okay with a little bit of failure. And then the other thing I would say is always have some lifeboats. If you're going to take some risks, make sure you have a backup plan. Try not to burn bridges. I have great relationships with almost everyone I've ever worked with. Not everybody. You can't be friends with everyone. You can't please everyone. So don't bother trying. But you can try and build common ground. You can try and see the other's point of view. You can try and bring people along as you're moving very aggressively on the path you're on. And then I guess the last thing I'd say is don't get involved in corporate politics. It's a waste of time. When I was at a big tech company, and I sold 17 times my quota, which put me into a VP career. Until I realized that was a waste of time. But the thing that a really good mentor and boss said to me one time, because there was a bunch of political crap going on because we were creating a lot of growth. He said, don't focus on the politics, focus on the growth. He said, you keep growing 20, 30% or, exceeding expectations the way you are, politics doesn't matter. You're going to get the resources you need. You're going to be driving the change and growth in the company. You're going to be the one that the company's going to have to respond to, not you reacting to all the baloney from people who can't compete. And I think that's another big piece is generate growth, be driving growth, be a part of the growth, be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
I never went and asked my boss for a raise. What I would do, this is something my dad taught me too, is he said, never go in and ask for a raise. Go in and ask how you can add more value and how you can increase what you're getting back because of a dramatically, increased value you're bringing to the enterprise. And I think that was, every boss I've ever had appreciated that. Rather than me say, hey, I need to make more money, I'd say, hey, how can I add more value here? Because I would like to add so much value that I get this piece back. What can I do that would deliver that? What do you need to see from me to make that happen? I think those were kind of surprising conversations for a lot of people I worked for. And I think if you're always focused on the other, on adding value, you will get value back, or you will have people who will notice it. My friend Pete Holmes, who's a comedian, he had Crashing on HBO. He's had his own he's got lots of stand-up specials on, and he's got a great podcast, You Made It Weird. One of the things that Pete Holmes says is people come to him all the time, because he's good friends. He's worked a lot with Judd Apatow, a lot of famous producers, directors. People say, Pete, can you make an introduction? Can you get me? And he's like, no, there is no shortcut. Me introducing you to them isn't going to help you right now. You create so much value. If you're an amazingly, like as a comedian, if you're an amazingly funny stand-up comedian, everyone's going to notice.
Right.
They're going to come chasing you. What you need to work on is becoming amazingly great. Then everyone's going to chase you. Until then, me introducing you to them isn't going to do anything for you. In fact, it's probably going to sabotage you.
Wow.
Because you're getting in over your head where you shouldn't be, or they're going to look at you and go, no, I don't want to see this guy. And now we've just ruined your first impression. So get your act together, learn to be great, and great things will come to you. But you got to get the greatness done first.
Woo! That's fire, guys. Come on, what? That is money. That is money. I mean, build and create value. Don't ask for value.
Right.
Come on, build and create value. Don't ask for value. Wow. I mean, that's the season of the entrepreneur, in that growth phase of trying to figure it out over and over and wondering, like in the valley, why is it not happening maybe the way I want it to happen? Who can I connect with that can, maybe bring me up? And it's more of what have you been doing to bring more value to the marketplace where people can say, I need you to be a part of what I'm doing. I think that's just absolute money, what you just said, man.
Think about the opposite of that. You know, a lot of people say, I wish I had a trust fund. I wish I was born into great wealth. I'll tell you what, money doesn't help you. Money is a wonderful thing to have if it's kind of like true peace or deep joy. If you put out a ton of value and you've gotten value back, hey, it's great because you probably know what to do with it. And you'll probably learn some things you shouldn't do with it along the way. You know, I always say, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. But the flip side of that is, you know, one of the hardest places to be is a place where you inherit this great kingdom.
Yeah.
And naturally one of the driving characteristics will be, don't screw it up, don't break it, don't lose it. And that, you know, that creates a totally different mentality, a mentality of keeping things small, of protecting, of exclusion, rather than a mentality of generating wealth, of growth, of an abundance mentality. I think one of the greatest things that people can develop is an abundance mentality, because they learn to create wealth, they learn to add value, they learn to do more and help others. And the only way that happens, whether you have any money or not, is by actually believing that the universe is an abundant place, that there's great love, deep joy available. And the only way we're going to discover it is by adding value to other people around us. And when we do, more will come back. But until we do, if we get into this place where we're trying to preserve and protect everything we have, where we're trying to exclude people who we think might take it from us,
right,
the world will be a very difficult place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you know, I've been doing a lot of study on that and talking to a lot of leaders, man. And it's like, there's so many people in very high positions, by the way. And I'm talking about people who own big businesses or have large teams. And they're trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we move, especially in this new economy? I mean, everything's going almost digital. You know what I mean? Like, everything's moving, everything's changing. And so, Dave, there's so many people who are building their business out of fear,
right,
or out of hey, I might lose them or lose this or whatever. And then there's some people who are building their business out of abundance. How do you help those people who are trying to figure out, okay, I want to move into abundance, but I'm fearful that I might lose someone or lose my team, or they're like building their business they're afraid of what other people who may have been here a long time think. Like, you know, like what is that? How do you?
It's, you know, with Excess, we were making a lot of changes at Amway, right? And anytime there's change, the process of change is never easy. It's always disruptive, and the biggest stakeholders will typically fight change the most, right? They have the most to lose. Or the people who are up and coming, who are growing, will typically embrace it. They're the change agents, and so, you know, you'll have a lot of irrational, unusual behavior from stakeholders, key stakeholders sometimes, until they see how it benefits them, and then they'll become your biggest supporters. And so what we had to learn in every market we went into, in every country we went into, we would have early adopters who were very excited to support us and work with us. And we'd also have some older, bigger leaders sometimes who would fight us or be angry or be upset. And what we learned really quickly was, it's okay for them to have those feelings. It's okay for them to be concerned the way they are. That's a natural reaction, and it's not my job to change them. My job is to offer the opportunity for people to participate with us or not. Either choice is okay. That's up to them, not up to me. I'm not here to fight them or confront them or even convince them, just to offer the opportunity. And then when people want to work with us, my job was to double down and give them as much support as we possibly can, and to do it with them. And I think that process enabled people to, because we weren't fighting battles, we could put all of our effort into productive activities. And when we put all of our effort into productive activities, it allowed us to show the people who thought they were fighting us that this was actually probably the next place to go. Of course, we weren't always successful. We sometimes we failed, sometimes we succeeded. But the fact is, on balance, we had a lot more success than failure. We learned a lot along the way because we were working together and supporting people who were capable of growth. And that just brought along the people who weren't quite there when we started, who didn't see it when we started, maybe who had more to lose than we did when we started. But they came around. In Japan, when we launched, became our second largest market for most of my career with Excess. Half of the market, half of the Japanese leaders, it was an older market. Half the leaders thought we would destroy Amway if we launched Excess in Japan. the marketing team didn't see it at all because there were really no energy drinks in Japan per se. Red Bull was barely just getting started. And I said, this is our opportunity to pioneer. This is our opportunity to introduce something new and fresh and different. This is our opportunity to create a culture and a lifestyle brand rather than just products that have some you know, a lot of the products at that time were all about features and functions, about rational arguments. And I was saying, look, nobody makes big decisions with reason. People make their big decisions around emotion. They fall in love. They love the way something smells, tastes. They love the people that they met at this cool event that they had. And it doesn't matter what their parents think about this business. It matters that the experience trumps all the reasons. And so anyways, one of the biggest leaders in Japan did support us, Kaoru Nakajima-san. He's a double Founders Crown Ambassador,
Wow.
a remarkable man. And he believed in the whole cultural element, and he supported us, helped us engage the young leaders. And you know, that business took off. And the other leaders who thought we would destroy the business and were trying to fight us at the beginning all came along later. And we had the grace. We don't hold grudges. We don't look backwards. Like water under the bridge. It's like, you know, I let them do their thing. I let them throw sticks and stones. And when they're ready to come join us, hey, that's fine. I might have done the same thing. I have to understand where they are and why they're doing it. And again, you know, what they do doesn't tell them, what they say about me doesn't tell me about myself. How I respond to what they say about myself. And so the whole point is, hey, they're saying things because they want you to react. They want you to respond. They want you to fight back. You have the choice whether or not you're going to fight back. You have the choice whether or not you're going to react and how you're going to react. And if you keep that door open and don't create barriers and boundaries, it gives you the opportunity to welcome them with open arms when they're ready to come join you. And then you can focus all your effort and energy on the things that are productive and going to help you grow in the direction you want to go.
Wow. That's phenomenal, man. You know, there's so many people right now who are very creative who needed that. There's so many people like myself, you know, it's like, you know, we're going in, you know, this is the decade of dominance, like my mentor says, you know, and we're dominating the space. We're not dominating people. We're dominating the space that we occupy, and we're taking dominion and we're moving in. And a lot of it you know, kind of comes from the pioneers like yourself who have actually created a space for people like us to, you know, to move forward, to like, you know, stay creative, and we all can do it together at the same time and win. And I want to ask you a question, because this has really been something that has been big for me. I'm all about authenticity. You know, I love this video. You may have seen it before. It's called The Lone Nut. Have you ever? No. This video will transform your life. But it talks about the guy, right? He's a lone nut. He gets out there in front of the middle of the crowd, and there's nobody out there.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this. Go ahead.
You know, there's no one out there dancing.
You
know, and he's just like, you know, he just started going crazy. Yeah, boom. He's going crazy, and he's having fun, and he's dancing, and everybody thinks that he's nuts. Everybody thinks that he's wild. Everybody's not joining in. And then all of a sudden, this one other guy from the crowd comes in and starts going crazy, and he's going all around him, and all of a sudden there's this another person who comes in who may have been the friend of the guy that came in second, and then all of a sudden this lone nut who started a new revolution, it starts moving and it starts grooving. But it took one person stepping out and being completely authentic within themselves so that they can transform an entire generation. Let me ask you this, like, how has being yourself, how has being authentic, number one, how has it gotten you in trouble? and then number two, how has it worked for you and moved you into, you know, the David Vanderveen and the entire empire you've built so far? Like how talk to us about that.
You know, I'm not sure I've always had it articulated as well as maybe I do now when I'm, you know, just over 50. But I've always had to kind of do my thing. I've never felt like I had the option to just go do the things everybody wanted me to do. And I came from a very structured environment, very structured home, very structured schools and churches and those sorts of things. I just always felt like an outsider. And I don't think I felt like an outsider because I felt like those things were wrong. I just felt like it wasn't me. and I wasn't afraid to just do stuff and to try things. And of course I burned my fingers. Of course I fell down. Of course I fell off the swing set. I mean, but what I've learned over the years is you have to embrace the failure. You have to embrace the disgrace, the things that didn't work, as much as you have to embrace the things that do. We all, here's a question for you. Do you learn more from your successes or your failures?
Well, that's a great question. I absolutely learn more from my failures. I don't think you learn much of anything in your success. You're so excited, you're so fired up, and then a lot of times you're giving it to other people, and that's what I've noticed. In a lot of my successes, I'm focusing on others. I'm giving it to others. I'm glorifying others. So I learn more in my failures for sure.
So I if you like, I have a website because I had a lot of people coming to me asking about stuff, and so I created a website so people could go find it, and I didn't have to physically respond to everybody. It's davidvanderveen.com. It's just my name, and my bio in there is kind of funny. It was written in a way that's kind of funny because it has as much about my failures as my successes, and the successes are kind of written in a way that are, I think, a little humorous and probably play it down a little bit. But I don't think people want to hear about our trophies. I think people want to hear how we're human, and how we fail, and how we got back up, and how we learned from that, and how we became better because of it. So yes, I got arrested in high school for skateboarding in a public swimming pool and contributing to the damage in that pool, and I had to fix it. I had to work all through spring break instead of going on spring break to contribute to fixing that, and to get it repainted and recaulked and resealed. I got kicked out of college. I mean, publicly, it was all about a poem and a student newspaper that we created. But the real reason was because we were throwing big parties at Wheaton. We had an underground newspaper. We had our own secret society called the Church of Reason, and we were running the campus, and the administration didn't like it. And the administration said, "Your values are different than our values. We don't want you here anymore." And I was like, probably a good idea. I should probably go somewhere else at this point in my life, because I'm not going to be that person. It doesn't fit me. It's not who I am or who I want to be. And part of what I learned at that point too was, I was effectively getting kicked out of school. And I said, well, either I can let Wheaton tell that story, or I can tell that story. And so we created a big public demonstration with students. We were on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. We were in the New York Times. We were in the national television news. My parents discovered I was getting kicked out of school because my friends were watching a Cubs game on WGN, and I was in the 11 o'clock news.
Oh wow!
But that put the school on its heels. The president of the college had to respond to our narrative, not generate his own. And we controlled the story. When he actually did his press conference at the Billy Graham Center, we stormed it and came in. And what do you think the cameras all did? They all went to us. Wow. Then we got to we just looked for the biggest place to tell the biggest story. If he was going to host it, great. We'd be happy to come and tell our story there, even if he didn't like it. But so it was a series of those things that that parlayed itself into my political work quite a bit, where I did a lot of work crafting narrative around earned media and voter education and things like that. But it was all about how do we tell the big stories that are compelling, that people will retain and repeat, that will be authentic, that will connect, that will touch your heart and bring you to the next level. I was in Hong Kong. We were launching from the Chinese Greater China markets, and I was in Hong Kong, and the former head of the Amway China business said it was a staff meeting, and she said, "Can you tell the 3 most dramatic stories that have happened to you while you were building the business and helping us transform this business here?" And I chose 3 that you might not expect. It wasn't about our successes necessarily. The first one happened in the Ukraine, and we had been living in Germany and Europe as we were launching a lot of European markets in 2013. In 2014, we had been planning to launch Ukraine. I'd been going to Kiev, and we were working on this launch. And while that was happening that fall, there was a lot of protests against a very corrupt head of that country, Yanukovych, who was taking tremendous bribes. He created a culture of corruption there. I mean, police in Ukraine were earning 2/3 to 3/4 of their income through bribes. So it's just endemic corruption, and the people were getting tired of it. And there was a big tussle between should they be aligned with the EU and more liberalization, more openness, more authenticity, or should they be aligned more with Russia And of course, you'd be getting money from the Russians, which is wonderful. By the way, I love the country of Russia. I love Russian people. Don't always agree with the politics coming out of there or any place else. And I think their question was, do we want to align with Russia and be Russian slaves and effectively take money, but then be beholden to more of this corruption? Or do we want to align more with the EU, become a more transparent government, have more anti-corruption measures? People in Kiev are not slaves. They wanted more freedom and liberty. And so they started reacting and revolting against those two questions. Yanukovych had to flee the country. There was a major revolution, and we were launching literally in beginning of March, days after the February Revolution, where two of our Amway ABOs were killed in Maidan protesting by Russian snipers, where some of our distributors were participating in the revolution, in trying to get new freedoms for themselves and their fellow people in that country. And what I said, here was my, so people were saying, hey, David, at Amway, they're saying, don't go to Ukraine. It's not safe right now. There's revolution. There's not even police. It's chaos. And I knew that we were still planning to have this launch party, this big launch event in Kiev, 10,000. I said, are the distributors still coming? He said, yes, 10,000 distributors will be coming from across Ukraine to participate in this. And I said, well, then I think I have to go. And my wife said to me, she said, we don't need the money. And she wasn't saying don't go. She was just saying, don't do it for the money. It's not worth it. And I said, I'm not doing it for the money. In fact, money doesn't even matter, really. I said, the reason I'm going is because we have 4 values on our wall: freedom, family, hope, and reward. And if our distributors are going to be working and fighting for their freedom, standing up for themselves, I think we have to go support them, particularly when it might cost us something. And particularly if I don't agree with all of them. And if it's not real freedom if I agree with everybody all the time. I did agree with the side, pursuing the EU was doing, but not all of our distributors felt that way. I said, look, I'm not going there to tell anyone how to vote. I'm not going there to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. They have to work that out. I'm going to support new freedoms for the people we work with. And so I went there. We had these amazing launch events. We came back and did more of them. It became a very fast-growing market for us. Unfortunately, the civil war there kind of disrupted that whole economy, but it was one of the most profound experiences. In fact, a friend of mine saw what I was doing and said to me on Facebook, he said, why are you selling soft drinks in a revolution? And I actually wrote a long-form essay. It's in Sojourners, the Sojourners periodical. It was called Selling Sodas in a Revolution, the Cure for Human Bondage. And the whole point was explaining why I was there. And I said, look, I'm not really here to sell sodas. The whole reason we did this was to help people get economic freedom in their life. Because if you can own a piece of this, you can grow a piece of this, you can create the bread you eat. You're not reliant on somebody else. You're not relying on Russia or a president or any kind of corruption. You actually get economic control of your life. And then you can start focusing on these higher freedoms: social freedom, who you can associate with; political freedom, who's going to control your life, who's going to control the country; and religious freedoms. What's the God you worship? David Foster Wallace is agnostic. He's unfortunately dead now, but he's agnostic. And he says in This Is Water, he said, look, choose the God you're going to worship, because you will worship something. If it's me, you'll never have enough. If it's looking beautiful, you'll never be pretty enough. Choose something bigger than yourself. And I think that's profound, right? And so, but people can't discover that. That's work they have to work out. We can't tell them that. But if we get them economic freedom, if we get them the freedom to feed themselves, then they can start discovering what those higher freedoms are. So I think that's really important. So we did that. It was a fantastic launch, and it worked. I was very proud of that. The other two are maybe a little more confusing for some people. I was in the UK when we were launching, and we were having a party, and one of our distributors in the UK is a transvestite named Christy, and she is a tall woman who I hope I'm saying that right, but she's quite tall. She has a size 12 foot, size 12 heels, and sometimes she would show up at meetings as a man, the way she was born, and sometimes she would show up as a woman, the way she identifies. And when we were having our launch party, she showed up in a evening gown and dress shoes, or heels. And some of our other distributors I think they were surprised, and it was awkward, and so they were sort of laughing at Christy. And I went over and danced with Christy. And the head of the European market, Peter Stridham at the time, came over and he said, "Thank you for doing that." Wow. And I said, look, Peter, I said, I don't always understand why people identify the way they do, and it's none of my business. Right. But we're a family. Barb Van Andel Gaby tells this great story. When people used to go what we call direct distributor, we call Platinum now, they would get invited back to Ada, Michigan, and we would say, welcome home. You know, the Amway would say, welcome, this is your family, this is your home.
Yeah.
And you know, the business is bigger than just the economics. It's a culture, it's a community, it's a family. So I said, hey, if this is part of my family, I'm going to celebrate that person's decisions, their choices, whether I understand them or not, whether I agree with them or not, because that's part of the freedom that we share here. They get to define their life and I get to define mine. And we may do it differently, but we're going to celebrate that shared freedom we have. It's one of our core values. And so, you know, that was kind of changed how I thought and saw the world a little bit, and how I thought about who we worked with and what it meant. And then I think the third one was when the Supreme Court in the United States decided that, you know, same-sex marriage was appropriate for this country, and they made that decision. Justice Roberts actually said this. He said, Chief Justice Roberts, he said, you know, don't celebrate the decision, celebrate the fact that other citizens in this country have more freedoms, whether you agree with it or not.
Wow.
And I thought that was really powerful, and I thought it fit really well with our business. And we didn't want to upset the apple cart, but we wanted to make sure we did something. A lot of lifestyle brands were celebrating this and celebrating people's new freedoms in America. And so we published a photo we had. It wasn't actually made for that event. It was a picture of a can of Excess, but with all the different flavors as vertical stripes. Right. And they weren't even as a rainbow. They were just kind of, you know, mixed up as different colors on the can. Right. But rainbow-like, let's just say. So we posted that. We said something like, you know, love wins. We didn't really say a lot about it. Just had a couple hashtags. Right. We didn't want to be inflammatory. We just wanted to celebrate. Right. And it created a bit of a firestorm with some of our older leaders in North America who, you know, can be quite conservative, and they have every right to be. Yeah. A couple of them tried to get me fired, and that's fine. And Amway chose not to do that, and I think that was wise. But I basically said, look, we have these values: freedom, family, hope, reward. We have distributors. You know, some of our top distributors are gay. Some of the family members who own the business are gay. Some of our staff are gay. Yeah. Part of our job is to celebrate this new freedom is a core value for us. We have to celebrate that with them, particularly if we disagree. And I didn't happen to disagree with that, but I thought it was important that we celebrate it. And I think it's those. To me, it was kind of little things. My younger son said to me later when he heard about what had happened. He said you had to do it. He said it would be weird if you didn't say something. It says more if you don't say something than if you say a little thing and just, you know, hey, we're here too, we're with you, right. Congratulations. And so I think those little things, those three stories, are kind of indicative of how I view the application of values in life, the application of values in a business. And sometimes I do things that get me in trouble. Sometimes I do things trying to live my authentic self, my best self, that not everybody else understands, that are maybe more confrontational or more disruptive than I certainly, you know, than I intended. Right. I definitely had this year I had a TikTok video that went viral that created a little disruption where I'm working now. And you know what? The funny thing was 120,000 views, no negative comments. My kids were like, this is making it into our feeds. What are you doing? You know, they were laughing. They loved it. But some of the older board members where I am didn't get it. And that's okay. Right. I didn't have to, you know. Right. It's not up to them to define the future and the culture. I think that's up to a younger generation. People actually use TikTok. Right. I don't know if it's illegal now or not to use TikTok.
Not yet. I still use it. So I'm gonna follow you. You follow me back.
I actually rarely. I hardly use TikTok. I think I think it's a platform that's much younger than the demographic I'm typically in. We just happen to use.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Now, that's not all the way true because obviously the demographic of TikTok is very, 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 very widespread. I mean, right. There's 60, 70, 80-year-olds who are absolutely famous on TikTok right now. Like they probably wouldn't make it on Instagram, but they are like killing TikTok. You know what I mean? So I think that's phenomenal. I need to go check out that video. You said something that's absolutely powerful, man, because it's like that's what it's really all about. Like, I mean, no one has any control over anyone. You know what I mean? Like you don't have any control. It's like that's not in your hands. And so, you know, celebrating values and celebrating core values of other people while having boundaries. That's all it is. You know, that value doesn't have to be your value, but it does not mean that you don't have to celebrate the idea of freedom.
Right.
And I think that's what it's all about. It's like it's the idea of freedom that we celebrate and allows for everyone to do their deal. There's plenty of people who openly express who they are around
Right.
me, and I'm cool. It doesn't make me. It doesn't. That's great. It doesn't make me any different. Doesn't make me feel any type of way because I've already seen a lot of my life of what I've been taught and how it's not necessarily always been true.
Absolutely. No, I mean, look, we come from Dutch rootstock, right? Our parents, grandparents immigrated from the Netherlands, and you know, the great thing about the Netherlands, since the 1600s, they've been a very tolerant culture. Sarah's grandparents came from Friesland with her mom, and they had this oil painting over their fireplace of a witch trial. And it was kind of scary looking, you know, this woman being weighed on a scale. And I said to her grandfather at one point, I said, why do you have a painting of a witch trial over your fireplace? And he said, because it's kind of an unusual thing. And he said, you know, in the 16th century, if you were being condemned as a witch, you wanted to try and get to the Netherlands to have your witch trial because the Dutch would always pardon you. Because the Dutch were tolerant and they realized that people might believe differently. That's why the Pilgrims, the Puritans, came from the Netherlands. They weren't Dutch. They actually went to the Netherlands for religious freedom. They left the Netherlands because they didn't want their kids becoming Dutch. And if you look at like the big universities, you know, the reason Leibniz and Spinoza and these guys were all in the Netherlands was because they had the opportunity to pursue authentic ideas rather than ideas the church allowed. Yeah. So we come from a very tolerant people, and it doesn't mean that we're relativistic. I mean, what it means is I have my values, you have yours, and I'm very happy to have you have your values and for them to be different than mine. We were kind of raised that way, so it's maybe a little easier for me. I like to think about it like ice cream. Hey, you might love pistachio ice cream, and I might love, you know, Chunky Monkey. And you don't have to like my flavor, and I don't have to like yours. We can still celebrate ice cream.
Right.
I think that, you know, that's the basic concept. And once you kind of think about that, it allows you to celebrate the other person you may not disagree with, who may come from a different background than you, even though maybe your beliefs are different, maybe where you come from is different. Yeah. You know, as I travel the world, you know, in our business, right, in the Amway business, we have a lot of Hindus, we have a lot of Muslims, we have a lot of Christians, we have a lot of Jews, a lot of people who come from different traditions. And people who have no beliefs, you know, either they're intentionally atheistic, they don't want a God, or they're like, I don't know. And I've always said, you know what? Not my place.
Right.
That's up to you. And when people would show me their traditions, you know, as I travel, people want to show me where they like to eat, how they do their business, what they like to have fun doing, and also sometimes where they worship. And I'm like, this is great. My only question was, how's it working for you? Does it work? Awesome. Do more of it. You know, if it's not, maybe keep looking.
Right.
Hopefully we're all continuing to look, right, and pursue as it progresses.
Yeah. I mean, the pursuit of something better, and I teach this all the time, Dave, the pursuit of something better is a never ending journey. The moment that you become and you say, I'm the best, then you have already
started dying.
You already started down. You already started going backwards. See, I noticed something, and I like the study of words. So I like to really like dive in sometimes, Dave. And I said, hey, if you ever said, hey, I'm good. When you say I'm good, that's a very stagnant word. It kind of like, okay, I'm good. You know, are you hungry? No, I'm good. You know, there's no level above that really in the idea of you saying I'm good. If somebody says, oh, I am the best. Yeah, I'm the best. When you're the best, you've basically won or competed or beat it. You know, you fought, you know, everyone at a certain level, and in that area or that vicinity, you've become the best. Well, that's very stagnant to me. You know, I've heard people say, you know, I'm the greatest of all time. Well, you know, I've seen a lot of people who were the greatest of all time, and now people are breaking their records, right? And so that's a very stagnant place to be. However, if you say, I'm getting better. The word better, that idea, the word better has movement attached to it.
It's about mastery. Yeah, it's about mastery, not about accomplishment. I think that's a huge differentiator, right? So how do I keep improving versus I've arrived? I think, look, I really do. It's a cliche, but I think life is a journey, not a destination. I think we reach destinations along the way. And maybe it's kind of like graduation. You're like, oh man, look where I am today. This is amazing. I never thought I'd get here. But hopefully you don't stop. People talk about climbing mountains peak to peak. Like you climb one, you're like, oh man, there's another one over there. There's one over here. I ride waves. Some days the waves are great. Some days they're not so good. It's not getting in the ocean. It's about discovering something new about yourself. It's not about, the peak of performance necessarily. And I think that's, even as we age, look, I'm over 50. So
you look 30, man. You look great.
Thanks. I'm trying to show some hair. No, but I think the thing as you get older, you realize, I'm probably not going to get faster. My mile time probably is not going to get, lower. I had a bad dream. I played soccer in college. I had a dream that at this age, I had to go back to college and try and qualify for the soccer team.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up soaked through my shirt because I was like, I could not figure out how to get, we used to have to do these things in summer training where you have to run a 400 7 times. You'd have to run it, under 60 seconds, then you'd walk, then you'd have to run another one under 60. The first few, if you're, I was a sprinter, the first few weren't that bad. By the time you get to number 4, 5, 6, you're like, people are thrown up on the track. It's hard. And we were in our 20s, we were in our late teens and 20s. I went out and actually tried to run a sub 60 400 not that long ago. I came in a little high. I came in at 110 or something, and it did two things for me. One, I was like, wow, I'm not the guy I used to be. But two, it also made me start thinking, how could I get to a sub 60 400? What would I need to do? How could I train? Is it possible? I think that combination, right, of not just looking back to see what you used to be, but also thinking about how you can become better now is what part of mastery is all about.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Dave, we have had a blast. Now, awesome. I'm going to be honest with you. Again, I can spend 3 hours here. I can spend so much time, and I know we only budgeted an hour, and we're already at 1 hour and 48 minutes. And let me tell you, I don't feel like we've spent 15 minutes yet. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. The stuff that you're throwing and the nuggetology that you're, given to us here through stories is really, really amazing, guys. And I really hope that everyone here who's been a part of the Lit family is picking up on what Dave is talking about. Listen, guys, if you want to have a round two or maybe just kind of get some information from him, guys, he has an amazing podcast that he does. It's called Kick Aspirational. I mean, I think that is actually one of the most phenomenal names you can name a podcast. Not even to mention, guys, that the content that he has on his podcast is phenomenal, and you want to make sure that you guys go check it out. I'm gonna put the website name in here so that all of you guys can go and check it out, and just be in constant communication and follow him on Instagram and see what we're doing here at It's Lit TV. Follow us and connect with us, because what he has and what he's doing is revolutionary. I mean, the things that Dave has done in the media, in the marketplace, in the community is a game changer. And maybe you didn't hear him like you heard of a Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, but the things that he's done, the upper echelon that he's been a part of, and what he and his team, and even us all together as a team, what we've done as a community is absolutely revolutionary and helping a lot of people's lives become better off because we decided to live ours. And so I'm just so excited, David. Before we go, man, I want to ask you, is there anything else to add to the pool of meaning that you have on your heart? That is anything before we get out of here that you want to say or you want to leave someone with? Because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole kick aspirational thing, it's a term we had in our XS brand guide, and it came out of a discussion. There was some marketers at Amway, lovely people. I like to call them mom gene marketers, kind of maybe some ladies who were more conservative than we were, and we would say, hey, this needs to be cool. And they'd say, but this is cool. And I'd be like, okay, we have to redefine cool, because for us, cool is like AC/DC. And for you, cool is like Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow is not bad. It's just not our taste, not what we're trying to do here with this brand. And so we created, instead of saying cool, we said it has to be kick aspirational, meaning kick ass in an inspirational, positive way that moves the agenda forward. Because that's a fun term, and when you hear that, you're like, okay, this isn't. Yeah, we got it. You got to be. Bam, bam. Let's put some energy behind this. Let's. I used to say, look, still say it, but it's not about being relevant. It's about being compelling. And in fact, relevance is the enemy of compelling many times, because if you're just doing it so that no one's offended, you'll never get to the greatness you need to accomplish. And so that's where Kick Aspirational comes from. And the whole point of Kick Aspirational is I would get a lot of people asking me, well, how'd you do it? How'd you create excess? And it didn't really want the detail. I mean, I'm happy to go into the mechanics of how we did it, but that's not really what they were asking. I think what they were asking is, how can I create a life that I want to live, like the way I see you living yours? And so what I did is I told some of my stories at the beginning of it, kind of some monologues. I'll do monologues every once in a while. But I also started interviewing people who are at different points in the journey. Some just getting started, some overcoming great adversity, some who had big success. And the whole point of that, and I think the whole point of Kick Aspirational, and largely kind of similar point of view to what you're trying to accomplish here, is, it's not a spectator sport. It's about getting involved in the game. It's about being kick aspirational every day, scaring yourself a little bit, surprising yourself with what you're capable of, taking a risk that scares you, and stepping out. And most importantly, not doing it by yourself, but by doing it through building a community of people who share your values and want to accomplish more in life. And somebody asked me one time, when is enough enough? And I said, it's never enough. I don't think it's about greed. I mean, my wife and I just downsized, much more expensive location, but the point isn't bigger all the time, but the point is better. The point is more in a way that advances the agenda, the progress of the values that you support. And money, as an example, is just points on the board. But if you want to win the game, you better keep putting points on the board. And so I think for us, it's mostly about advancing this whole lifestyle, this whole cause, these whole values. And you need fuel to do that. And there's different types of fuel for different types of people at different points in their life. Oh, look at that one. So, man, it's just exploding out already.
That's how you know it's going to be good. You got to catch it. Well, we got so many people, Dave, in the chat, man. I'm so excited to see everybody who's diving in right now on Nuggets. Someone said they're ready for a round 2. Somebody said he's got to come back. Somebody said I'm ready for a night owl. Oh my gosh, man! Wow, old school terms, right?
That's awesome. I'm not your upline, so you get that from your upline. But I'd love to come back anytime you want to, Jakeem. This is super fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I had a blast, man, and thank you so much, man. It's an absolute honor. Like I told you before, I hit you in the chat, man. And I'm serious about that question, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, man, because it's not just me who needs this. It's so many other people, and there's people who you can connect to, who maybe I can't connect to, and then there's people who I can connect to, who maybe you can't connect to, who we need to share this story and share this idea and build out the idea of all of us connecting. The good thing about this, Dave, is if we're connecting in a position where when we leave from here today, not only are our lives going to be better off, but we're going to have such a diverse pool of meaning to go and share with so many people now that we're in 2 whole different universes right now, man. And I'm just so pumped, so excited to be in here. Thank you so much to everybody who's been on It's Lit TV with us today. I'm going to be honest with you. My heart is getting a little heavy that we got to end it. So, I don't know. We got to hold on. But I'm so excited, man. And guys, like I said, if you want to stay in constant communication and in constant, relationship and moving on to a partnership and entrepreneurship, just watching what David Vanderveen is doing and what we're doing here at It's Lit TV, go check him out at Kick Aspirational. Go check him out at davidvanderveen.com. Go to his Instagram. Go to our Instagram. We're going to be putting out a lot of information coming out here in the next few months, and we are excited. So again, brother, thank you so much, and we're getting ready to come out on some videos. Let's get our sponsors a quick little tip. Our sponsors, we thank them so much. We got the entire YWF Nation who's been putting a lot behind what we do here. And so we're going to show a few quick videos. Make sure you guys go check them out. They got some gear going on. They have different platforms where they're helping entrepreneurs to grow in a massive, massive way, and it's spreading out the goodness. And so here we go. Check them out. Again, guys, thank you so much. We had an absolute blast. I appreciate all of you guys for being in here with us today. And we are now finished with the amazing live stream with David Vanderveen. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time, as we will have another next level game changer who's going to blaze It's Lit TV, light us all on fire, and show us how to move from A to B all the way to Z. Love you guys so much. Stay tuned. And remember, it's not just about me. It's about you too. It's about all of us. Let's build this together. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Let's go. It's